So would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business?
Absolutely. So I'm Jessica Reis. I own Reis Learning Center here in the downtown of New Milford. And we work with kids of all ages to provide some academic support as well as some other focus areas like encouraging them to self-advocate and build confidence.
That's awesome. I love that. That's very important to have too. Would you mind explaining a little bit more what your mission was or what your intentions were when you started this business?
Sure. So we work one-on-one with students and we aim to provide an individualized program for them. So whatever their academic needs are. And for some students, that's things like time management, having a lesson explained in a different way, or just having more time to work on something. And for other students, it's, perhaps gaps that were from years prior in their education, and we want to work to fill those in to bring them up to grade level. But the mission really comes down to, we have this little tagline that says, inspiring academic and personal growth. So we want to, of course, remedy whatever their needs are as far as coming to us for some tutoring or skill building. But like I said, we really want to outfit them with those tools to take outside of the classroom as well. So going and saying, I need more from you in this area, or can you explain that in a different way, or whatever it might be. And then beyond that, just knowing that they have the capacity to achieve whatever they're working toward.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Obviously, you are a female business owner. Could you tell us a little bit about that experience? And I know that personally, I don't know many other female business owners. So if you could talk a little bit about others who you might know.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So for myself, I landed in this unintentionally, and I love it. And I don't know if I'll be able to work for somebody else again, just because there's a lot of freedom and I do get to put my vision in place. And I have met so many other inspiring female business owners as well, in different industries, ages, they're just getting into it or they've been in it for a while and are able to mentor in different ways. It's interesting. So like I said, we're here in the downtown, we're on Bank Street, and we're part of, our office is in the 1902 building, which is like right on the corner. And it spans part of Bank Street as well as Railroad Street. And I had a friend of mine who's a photographer. He was there late night one night, as was I. And he said, I'm just photographing your building. The street's empty and it's a really great night. And so I went and I turned the lights off and made sure that his picture could be nice. And then he gifted it to me both digitally and as a print. And I posted it thanking him. And then I tagged the other businesses in my building on social. And I think it was like a moment where I passively knew that all of my neighbors were female business owners. But like once I went and tagged all of them, I was like, oh my goodness, like woman-owned business, family-owned business, and, female managers here. And it was really cool for me to see that. And that still exists in the downtown a lot, up Bank Street, across Railroad, where we actually, the Learning Center expanded 2 years ago now to open an additional space where we do enrichment classes for groups. So the one-on-one at the Learning Center for academics, and then around the corner we work with all ages there. So I hope that was kind of a roundabout answer to what you asked. For myself, being a female business owner, it's been interesting, and there are definitely parts of what I do that I think are because of being a woman. I started my business when I was 29, so I was still very young, and I still feel very green. Like I'm older now, but I'm still very green in what I do. And I do remember, experiencing some things that I don't think my male counterparts do experience. And again, especially being young, and I still kind of am a little bubbly and upbeat, and I smile a lot, and kindness is just a natural and important thing. And I would meet people through networking, and more often than not, I would get some feedback from men that were like, oh, good for you. Like, I'd be like, oh, I own Reis Learning Center on Bank Street, blah, blah, blah. And they'd be like, oh, good for you. And I'm like, well, good for the community, actually.
Yeah.
And then, things like, oh, that's so cute. And I'm like, what about this is cute? I don't understand. And I think a lot of that dialogue is really targeted at, like, from male counterparts to, like, female women in positions of, business or whatever it might be.
Yeah. What advice would you give to other women who own their own businesses, or even younger women who want to start their own business, who may be facing some of those obstacles in the future?
Well, for one thing, definitely, decide that the narrative is in your control. Like I said, if someone had said to me, well, way back when, I didn't know exactly how to respond, or I practiced responding and changing it. But, if someone's like, oh, good for you, then you do turn around and you say, well, it's actually really good for the student body and the families here, and just kind of change it that way. But my biggest piece of advice is to ask questions. Just be inquisitive, listen to what other people have to say, and just really seek support in all areas. If it's support that you need individually on a personal level, or support in growing your business or starting it, there are resources out there, and I hope that people seek them out.
Yeah. In honor of Women's History Month, would you mind telling us about some women in your life, or maybe in history, who have inspired you?
That's a great thing to think about, and I have been thinking about it, knowing what we were going to be doing today and talking about. And it made me realize, kind of sad, in a sad way, that in my academic history, like growing up and going to school at any level, I don't really remember my curriculum talking about many women. And I don't know that I ever reflected on that. So I didn't really learn about a lot of, like, women in history. So a lot of my female role models are people in my family. And I don't find that that's a negative thing. I don't wish I had more women in history to refer to. I have some really strong, caring women in my family. My grandmother raised me. I call her mom, and I kind of use the two terms interchangeably. She is still a beacon for me, of strength and compassion and caring and commitment to her family and the well-being of those in her life and around her. So I love that. I have an aunt who has gotten me through most of my life and just been like a rock for me and a best friend. And they both, share that passion. And I'm so glad that I have those women to turn to and see as those positive light people for me. So
yeah, it's interesting to hear that like in school you didn't learn about many, and now it makes me think, I'm like, I guess we really don't as much. Right? I mean, maybe some of the big ones, like one or two, but otherwise it's not a huge emphasis on it.
And I hope that that's changing. I hope that, that's what Women's History Month is, and all of these different highlights that we put on different achievers or parts of, or people from our community. We'll bring that to light a bit more, right?
Yeah.
Change it up.
Yeah, for sure. So my last question is, what does Women's History Month mean to you, and why do you think it's so important?
Well, what a great segue, right? So it is really because of that. I don't think I was informed until probably the college level that I could say no to things. And that's so sad, right? Like, that's such a weird realization that you don't have to just roll with whatever's coming toward you. It's like, hold on, and boundaries are super important. So Women's History Month, being able to offer more representation of different women who have learned that lesson and put it into practice, or who have found their own path in different ways, I think is going to be really important for younger girls and young women to see and know sooner that boundaries are important, and that your voice really matters, and to use it. So I hope that comes through.
Yeah, that's a perfect answer. Well, thank you so much for being here today and for answering our questions.
Such a pleasure. I appreciate it.
And good luck in all of your future endeavors with the Reis Learning Center.
Thank you.